Hello and welcome to another video. So, a deck that's been terrorizing ladder lately, Darkfeast Bloodbat, particularly Flauros, or Flauros, whatever you want to call it. I don't really care at this point, but it's definitely a solid deck. It does a wonderful job. Disciple of Lust is a crazy turn 1 play and gives you a lot of options. Of course, it's really difficult to get a decent Disciple of Lust into turn 2 play because you really need something decent. Usually Disciple of Lust into Blood Pact into potential 0 drops is usually what I find the better play to do if you want to get the nice 4-drop 5/3 out on turn 2. Of course, it's possible to do it on turn 1, but extremely unlikely due to RNG. I've pulled it off in Unlimited once just through some sheer fun, but nothing too impressive there, as your opponent usually concedes pretty quickly. Otherwise, it's running pretty much generic Darkfeast Bat engine for the most part, just using a more draw-focused deck so that you can really get those cards into your hand a lot quicker. Of course, that doesn't mean that will always happen. I've had matches where Darkfeast Bat just doesn't appear, and it was a nightmare, trust me. You'll see that in this video. And, of course, the one card that's a little bit different from what I've seen in some other decks, Succubus Lilith. So, being the competitive wild deck for the tournament, it's not a surprise that we see something like this. I mean, she's a pretty decent card with how much self-damage you're able to do, so you can actually roll out more cards than normal, which is great. It also creates a threat for your opponent, being a 3-drop 1/5 is a good stat line, and works quite well in the mirrors, at least from the couple of matches I've played with it. So, we're going to get right into it and check this deck out. So kicking us off, our first opponent is a portalcraft player. No surprise there, I've been seeing quite a few portalcraft on ladder in the last couple of days. Seems to be picking up some steam pretty quickly. So we're starting off with a pretty decent hand. Darkfeast Bat in your opener isn't entirely bad. It's a little clunky, but better than having no Darkfeast Bat till the end of your game. Trust me, that is a nightmare. Also, Gift of Bloodkin is a nice card in this deck. In particular, you really want it in the early game, so it's nice to have, especially since we do get Blood Pact as well. So now we have a really good chance at being able to play out our gold next turn. Which, at the moment, all we needed was a 0-drop, and we got it. Restless Parish is the card we want. So we are going to be able to get this out. He does get summoned. So it appears that he only seems to bug out in certain situations. It's a very awkward card. If you did see my last Darkfeast Bad Blood video, I managed to bug the replay so it completely froze up. He is the only one that I believe is Invocation that pulls on the turn instead of at the end of turn. I feel like if they go for any kind of nerf, that's probably what they'll do. If you've dealt 4 or more damage in this turn, at the end of your turn summon this card. That way people can't use the Evo instantly. I could definitely see that being a potential to that. And drawing him even isn't that bad, as a 4-drop 5/3 with a heal effect in a blood that damages itself is still fairly reasonable. So at this point we're just aiming to draw some cards, get as much as we kind of can, and pressure our opponent. As we've already dropped him down to 10 health, it's just devastating how much damage you can get in the early game with this deck, which really sets up Darkfeast Bat for the finisher. And then of course another Blood Pact gets us a 0-drop, Servant of Lust as well, means we're going to be able to summon a second drop here, which is going to be absolutely crazy, especially on our Evo. We're going to be able to Evo him out and use him to remove the 4/4. Of course it does mean one of the 1/1s will kill him off, but I'm not going to complain about healing for 5 and clearing a 4/4 for practically free at this point. And all we really need to do is buy one more turn, because Darkfeast Bat is pumped up way more than enough to finish this game, so Evil Eye Demon clearing out whatever they play next turn will pretty much guarantee that we have victory. Especially when all they're doing now is playing artifacts to wipe our board. Yep, so the Evil Eye Demon is going to clear this out. Darkfeast Bat is going to secure the game next turn, provided we don't see something like Neapolitan's Amulet, which would be absolutely devastating. But honestly, I don't see that being a big problem. I suppose I could have also just played Vera, but it would have been a bit more of a risk, as they could have cleared it with 3 of those and still had 1 follower on board at least. I feel like the 5/4 threat was just more devastating. So Ironforge Fighter, only 1 point left. Not much they can really do with that now. I mean, they can play a couple of artifacts, that would probably be about it. But nothing that would really save their life from this Darkfeast Bat. And there we go, 7-drop Dark Beast Bat straight to face. Reasonable amount of damage, about to wipe them out. Could not go wrong with that turn. So the last game was definitely one of the more ideal curves. This is one of those decks that will either work or fall on its face. They're really the only two options that it has. It's really got no in between, and as you're about to see, it's definitely hard if you don't get the perfect hands. As this Haven player is pretty devastating. Haven is always tricky because they heal quite rapidly and can defend themselves quite well, and it can be difficult for us to consistently get cards out. So of course, Disciple of Lust on 1 is definitely your ideal turn 1 play. No matter what, it's always what you want to be playing, even going second. Unfortunately, we didn't get a very good turn 2, otherwise I would have been able to get the potential Flauros out on 2 as well, but I'm going to at least hold off on that. And they're going for a pretty comfortable trade, which gives us another chance at this. But again, we're just slightly lacking. So I did debate on whether I wanted to actually play Vera that turn or not. I did decide not to. After all, I didn't want to give them a Bloodkin to use. So it was definitely a better choice, I think, even though I could have sacrificed my 1-1. And a second Disciple of Lust. If only I could attack with that, we might have stood a chance. At least we are going to be able to develop quite a stable board. A nice Vera with an Evo is going to pick up the kill and protect us going into next turn pretty nicely. And now every time we deal self damage we gain 2 play points back, so really can't fault that at this stage. So Seraphic Blade, pretty much Vera's bane if I had to say. Seraphic Blade is a perfect counter to Vera herself, as it just really hits hard.
Let me weave you a lie.
So we do our best to kind of survive this. That's really all we can do at this point. I should have probably evoed one of the 1-5s and just went face, but I did decide to gain the extra health instead and just kind of develop my board some more, even if it meant getting Black Inscription. And this time, Sacred Teaching and Iron Fist, so they're definitely trading a lot. They're trying to remove as much as they can here. At least I'm going to have a chance to play everything out. The only real disadvantage I have now is the fact that I am top decking, and that's going to be a rough time on its own. That's what really draws this game out, as a Dark Beast Bat at this stage in the game would just absolutely cinch it. So all I need is a draw. That's literally all I need. And if this 3-7 and this 1-5 manage to stick the board, all I need is to draw a decent draw card, and I'll be able to recover my points.
My word is my bond.
So anything at this point would have been better than Vera. Honestly, not the greatest pickup, especially considering we're only tanking them now, and it's going to get harder if they manage to clear this board out, which going into turn 8 is bound to start to happen. And another Seraphic Blade, so a little bit devastated there. If we could have kept the Vera, we would have stood a decent chance. Now we're really got to rely on draws. Honestly, looking at this, I honestly should have went for the Blazing Ruby instead of the Sapphire, but I thought I would try for drawing instead. Fortunately, it just didn't quite work out that way. Because my stats were too high, I wasn't able to remove something for a Restless Parish to have more potential draw power, but honestly, when you're running 3 Dark Beast Bat, you've got 20 cards, 26 cards in your deck. You really should be drawing it more. There's just some bad luck in this match in particular that led to the situation I'm in now, where I'm really having to drag this game out. So this time we've got another Alexandrite Demon, another couple of draws. We're really trying to push this draw power as far as we possibly can. Still can't use these parishes though, which is a little disappointing. Even if I had went for a better play there, it wouldn't have got me far. So we went for the healing, mainly just because I know the opponent isn't going to do much. So if I can keep myself pretty healed up, I should be able to buy enough time to potentially get my Dark Beast back. And our only real threat our opponent can play now will be Alexandria, which unfortunately is going to be pretty devastating. Play Gruder of Storms, that was a perfect way to deal with this board. They're going to heal 3, which is absolutely crazy per turn, or at least that turn, as they are going to proc one of these White Fang Temples. Which means I now have to deal with a 6-6, which is not much better honestly, and We end up with another draw card. Absolutely devastated I've been drawing these draw cards. Especially getting no Dark Feast Bat, and again, another draw card. At least I have a way to remove this dragon. That's the reasonable part, and at the same time, I am getting a nice 5-3 out of it, so, I mean, the turn wasn't a waste. It was definitely good. So Dark Feast Bat is the card we're missing. Godsworn Elixir, unfortunately, comes down. Definitely not what we wanted. It's going to completely block my Dark Feast Bat. And the healing makes things difficult. So this is it. We've got one chance. We get the Razorite, we get the Dark Feast Bat. Fortunately enough, after working it out, this is exactly what we needed for lethal. We're actually over by 1 thanks to Gift for Bloodkin. That really put us over by the 1 that we would have needed. Absolutely devastating though that they managed to play that then. If we could have drawn Dark Feast earlier, we would have been right. So, the last match was definitely the most rough I've had with this deck so far. I had some pretty bad matches with this deck in some cases. Just getting used to it and its playstyle was one thing. Similar to the Rune deck, it's another one of those things where you've just got to learn to balance out and know exactly what you want to mulligan for and where you want your certain cards to really come from and how. Unfortunately, Dark Feast Bat was the one card I just couldn't get in that last matchup. I mulliganed it away for hopefully a better early game. Unfortunately, that kicked me right in the ass and it came back to bite me as I didn't end up drawing it until super late into the late game, which was a little disappointing, but we did still manage to win, even if it was by the skin of our teeth. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, hit the like button, subscribe. You'll find the deck list in the description below. Big shout out to the guys who played in the SEO Wild tournament. Good job. I can see why these decks were top and why you guys were running them. They do a wonderful job. So till next time, see ya.